What's up, everybody? Back right at you with another off-the-cuff episode of Around the Paul. I'm Garrett Mitchell, as always, joined by Griffin Barfield and Clifton Kennedy. And we've made it through the weekend. It is now game week once again for the Clemson Tigers. But we're going to have two episodes of Around the Paul coming this week. We're going to talk more about the Miami game coming up in an episode we're doing tomorrow. So you'll want to stay tuned and check that out. But we've got some cool stuff to talk about tonight, just a little bit of off-the-cuff stuff. We're going to have fun with it, and we hope you enjoy watching this one. But before we get started tonight, as always, we want to give a big shout-out to our sponsor, Ardens Burger and Grill in Central South Carolina. They're located at 1280 18 Mile Road in Central, and they are your ultimate game day food destination and home of the legendary double-dipped wings bursting with flavor. They're your go-to for mouthwatering burgers, sizzling grills, and their famous wings. They'll have your taste buds coming back for more. So check out Ardens Burger Grill at 1280 18 Mile Road in Central, and we thank those guys for sponsoring what we do here on Around the Paul. Well, guys, the word that has been making the rounds over the last 36 hours or so is what Dabo Swinney said at his press conference a few days back. And that has, depending on who you ask, that is either got a lot of people saying, yeah, you go, Dabo, you tell them, or it's got half the fan base wondering exactly what the hell he is trying to get across. And that's, of course, Dabo's remarks about Clemson and their lack of, well, I'm not going to say lack of success, but in a sense, not being as successful as the standard that fans perceive has been set with two national championships in the last 6 years. And Dabo Swinney has never been shy about calling out critics and people that he thinks are either coming at him or coming at his team. Well, he comes right out and responds to a question about the criticism of Clemson's program and the expectations that the fans have. And he just flat out said, you know what? Well, maybe a few losses will be good in the long run, because you know what? Maybe the bandwagon's gotten a little bit too heavy. Maybe a couple of losses will do some good and lighten up the bandwagon a little bit. And, I'm not quite sure. I've kind of got my own opinion on what to think about those comments. And I'll give my opinion in a minute, but I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Because that off the cuff and in the heat of the moment, and it seems awful like he put his foot in his mouth on that one.
I agree with that. I think this season, I think many people have kind of seen the stubbornness that Dabo Swinney has brought, not only to Clemson, but I think to the whole world. I think the biggest example of this was the stubbornness of not using the transfer portal. And even if they did, it was for no one as big as, the big names are doing now. But I think, again, this is something like you said, Garrett, kind of putting his foot in his own mouth or shooting his own foot, because these Clemson players are surrounded by this saying that best is the standard. So I think that if you're saying that you're trying to weed out the bandwagon fans and maybe it's okay if we need to lose a little bit, that just defeats the whole point of college football. Teams are there to win games. Coaches are appointed to win games. Players are brought in to win games. And especially when you're surrounding them with the mantra that, the standard here is we're going to win football games. We're going to win national championships. We are going to be successful. It's very weird by Dabo especially to kind of go back on that whole idea.
Yeah. I kind of see where y'all are coming from, but I'm going to come from a different stance. I'm glad he did it. I think that, there over the past, 10 seasons, we've had 10 plus wins, and we've won 2 national titles. We've won, 8 ACC championships or something like that. So best is the standard. But I think you got fans out there that are expecting that all the time, and you're not going to get that all the time. You're not going to go undefeated every season. You're not going to lose just one game every season. Things are going to happen. The ball's not going to fall your way. And so I'm glad he did it, because I know people that would take that stance, and I just think they're crazy. Like if you're going to back the team, you need to back the team in everything they do, even in the hard times. And so I'm glad he did it. Like that's just who he is. Like he doesn't mind like talking to the naysayers, and so I'm glad he did it.
All right, well, guys, I said I've got my own opinion on this, and I think what I feel about it kind of falls somewhere between what Griffin said and Clifton, what you said. But to lend credence to what Griffin was talking about, on one hand, as Griffin said, Dabo has said many, many times, more times than any of us can count, best is the standard. Well, guess what? That is the standard that you, Dabo Swinney, created.
Exactly.
You built that up. You preached that mantra. You created that, and you built a championship level program. Now, perception is 9/10 of reality, and the perception right now is that Dabo Swinney built a championship program. Times changed, and college football has evolved in the years since Clemson's last national championship. He has failed to adapt to those changes, i.e. the transfer portal, NIL, and any other type of metamorphosis that you want to throw in there. Well, he hasn't adapted to that, and now Clemson is declining. And if the perception from the fan base is best is the standard, championship level program, I don't think anybody is sitting there saying that they expect to win the national championship every single year. But I think what the perception is that Clemson is not keeping up with the Joneses. And unfortunately, Dabo Swinney is making over $10 million a year. And if you're making $10 million a year to win football games, then you've got to do whatever you can do to keep up with the Joneses and make sure that the game doesn't pass you by. And so for him to come out and levy that criticism against people, or levy those statements against people who will criticize what they perceive is a lack of keeping up with the times, just a lack of initiative to meet the status that he himself has created. I don't think that's fair, because you're talking about fans that are spending hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to come to games, booking hotel rooms, paying for tickets, supporting the economy. Well, guess what? There's a large contingent of those fans that are offering up that criticism. Are they bandwagon fans if they're coming and spending thousands of dollars of their own money 2-3 times a year to come to games? I don't think so. A bandwagon fan's not going to do that. So on that hand, I can absolutely see why people take it as a slap in the face. And to a degree, I think I would too.
I'll also say this, and I don't think many people, and I don't know if the two of you will agree with me with this. I don't know if the two of you will disagree with me on this. But the ACC is much better than it has been in plenty of other years. You have the rise of Duke. You have North Carolina with a Heisman-winning not a Heisman-winning quarterback, but a Heisman-caliber quarterback and a top pick in the NFL draft. You have Florida State, who are returning basically all their guys. They're under a motivated head coach, and they haven't really been big in, I'd say, since the Jameis Winston days. So I think just the increased level of competition, the increased amount of close games. You're not smoking people 70-0 with Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson. And I'm not discrediting any of them. I'm saying that, conferences change in terms of competitiveness, in terms of talent. So I think you got to give the conference a little bit of credit, because even people were, on campus, I'm kind of the guy that people get asked questions about, and they're like, how did we lose to Duke? And I'm like, Duke's a very good team. They're very experienced, blah, blah, blah. I've said this all before. So I think people are also discrediting, and I don't know if Dabo is or Dabo is not. I think he's not. I think people are just not crediting how the ACC has evolved and how it's changed with the evolution of the transfer portal and the NIL and all that stuff. And it's become a lot better. I think it's a lot more competitive than maybe some other conferences this year, and the talent's there. I wouldn't be surprised if a top team, beats down a Big Ten or an SEC school in a big bowl game, or even the college football playoff if there is a team from the ACC.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think the conference has gotten better because of NIL, but I don't think, and I know y'all won't agree with me when I say this, but I don't agree that we've gotten worse because we haven't used NIL, or not NIL, but the transfer portal. I know I said something in a previous episode about why hasn't Dabo used the transfer portal. You know, he might need to, but I'm kind of going back on that. And I don't think, at least this year, I don't think that we've gotten worse. I think we've made dumb mistakes in key moments. And I'm going to continue to say this until it's not true. We're 3 plays away from being undefeated.
I agree.
And maybe 4. And I mean, if we win those 2 games, what are people saying? Nobody's even talking about the transfer portal because we're winning, right? So, the only reason people are talking about the transfer portal is because we fumbled the ball or threw an interception and we lost the game, and that's it. And so that I will always back Dabo. You know, sometimes I'll question him, but I think he's doing a fine job not using the portal. And that's just me. Like, and if we have to use the portal, then let's use it. But I don't think we've had to. Well, we've needed to. You know, I know I've heard some. I see that look, but that's just how I feel, man. And I could be totally wrong.
Well, you know, on the flip side of the same coin, you know, I think there's a lot of truth to what Griffin said, but Clifton, I think there's some truth to what you're saying as well. And just in the interest of fairness, on the flip side of the same coin, yes, I do think that there is a portion, and I'm not saying it's a big portion. I think it's probably the vast minority in reality. I do think there's a portion of the Clemson fan base that have become pretty spoiled and do live under the I'm not going to say delusion. I don't think that's the right word, because once you have a taste of winning, then you feel like you should keep winning, and I'm that way to a degree. I live and die by Clemson football. When I'm watching every week, I'm on the edge of my seat, and yeah, I get pretty daggum pissed off when we lose. But at the same time, when you come back to reality, you realize you're not going to win every game. You can't win every game. I mean, even Alabama's missed a playoff a couple of times in recent memory. But, you know, at the same time, though, I get the message that he is trying to get across. I do. And I can understand and feel the frustration that he has to feel from hearing the same things and the same criticisms over and over again. But just because his feelings and emotions in regards to that are valid, I don't think you can completely discount the emotions and how the fans feel as well. Because, again, going back, you have set that standard. So once you've set that standard and people have a taste of that, then that's what they expect year after year. For better or for worse, that's what they want now that they've had it. And so I think probably the correct way to feel probably lies somewhere in between. Have the expectations, expect Clemson to be a championship level program, but at the same time, you know, don't line up to jump off the cliff if they don't win the national championship every year. So, yeah, I think the fans are right to be angry to a degree with some of the comments that Dabo Swinney made. But at the same time, I think he's probably at least partially justified in some of the things he said too. So, end of the day, there's a middle ground, and I think everybody just has to meet there.
I think spoiled's the best thing he could have said. I think the middle ground is the best what Dabo meant, because obviously I think there's spoiled people that think that Clemson's going to win every year, but obviously, you know, there's different teams and different things. But I think, yeah, I agree with you to an extent on most of what you just said. Yeah.
Yeah, and Clifton, you know, I don't think that Dabo meant in any literal fashion he wants to see fans quit coming, or as he put it, lighten up the bandwagon. I think that was either a bit of hyperbole or, you know, he was just trying to give an analogy that went off the rails a little bit. But I think if you went back and asked him once he thought about it and cooler heads prevailed, I think he would probably be the first to say, heck no, I don't want fans to quit coming. And I think that was the whole thing. Yeah, that was the whole thing to begin with. People felt like he maybe should have taken a little bit of a lighter-handed approach to it. And whether he, I don't think he meant to insult the fans, but whether or not he meant to, it came across that way.
Oh, yeah. And in his press conference today, when I was watching it, he was asked about it. And he said 98.5% of the fans are very positive. That's what he said. And he said, you get that 1.5% that's not positive, and then they kind of blow it out of proportion. And so he spoke on it. If you go back and watch his press conference, he spoke on it during his press conference too. But he did say that he loves all fans. He said, but 98.5% of them are always positive.
Right. And look, I've interviewed the man, and I've talked to him on a personal level before I was a member of the Clemson media. I've talked to the man on a personal level, one-on-one, on 2 different occasions for 10, 15 minutes each time. And look, at the end of the day, you're not going to find a nicer person. Yes, he's a lot like me. He says things out of emotion, and he's an emotional person. He's an emotional person because he cares. I'm an emotional person because I care. But at the end of the day, talk to the man. He'll be the first one to shake your hand and look you in the eye and tell you how much he appreciates you for being there.
Yep.
I mean, I'll take this from the student standpoint. Students love Dabo. If he's on campus, flash mob around him, selfies, the whole 9 yards. So I like you said, he loves Clemson as much as we do. He loves the team as much as we do, and he's going to do whatever he can. I think, like you said, it was just maybe even like a little bit of disclaimer saying, hey, we are not going to win a national championship every year. That's college football in that sort of way. Alabama couldn't even do it, right? So yeah. I think that's kind of the general message that he was trying to get across, because, it's very hard to have that like perfect amount of perfection for an extreme amount of years.
Yep. Cut.
Are you good?
Go ahead.
To go into
yeah,
the next
go ahead.
topic?
Yep, go on the next topic.
Well, for everybody that has been, and it's that wonderful time of the year. We're getting into late October now. The season's at its halfway point. And so you start looking at bowl projections, postseason, or hypothetical postseason matchups. And, needless to say, a very interesting bowl projection came across the wire for the Clemson Tigers just yesterday. And guys, if this were to come to pass, this were to come true, then, oh my goodness, you want to talk about deja vu, chance for I told you so, Dabo's validation, and any other thing that you want to throw out there could all be rolled into one great big happy burrito of football, football craziness. And this is a projection that has Clemson playing Oregon State in the Holiday Bowl. And if you don't know who Oregon State is, then you probably know who their quarterback is.
Let's go.
Former Clemson quarterback, DJU himself, DJ Uiagalelei. Guys,
let's go.
It may be too early to try to set things in stone. A lot can happen between now and the first weekend in December, but it's certainly fun to think about. Clemson, South Carolina would go literally crazy if we've got a Clemson Oregon State matchup, Kade Klubnik, the man who replaced DJ Uiagalelei, versus the man who many felt just simply got ran out of town. Holy cow, what a game that would be.
Yeah. It's very tough to start. I mean, I'm kind of at a loss for words for it, but trust me, it's in the games. I think it was the Holiday Bowl. That's where it was projected.
Holiday Bowl.
San Diego, California. I think tons of Clemson fans would make the trip west. I think they'd. I mean, I might even. I'm not Sure, yeah, but this is a fun one. I think Oregon State is a great team, dark horse for Pac-12 in my opinion, and they're led by quarterback DJU, who he has the perfect situation in front of him, in my opinion. I think last year the offensive line was a little bit iffy. The Oregon State Beaver offensive line is one of the best, and that's where he plays his game really well. And he's got a great running game. He's done really well in the passing game. I was telling Garrett before this that Oregon State are the only team in the FBS who has every time they have made a trip to the red zone, they've scored points, which is something that
That's
doesn't
crazy.
really happen in the midweek of
That's crazy.
in the midweek. But overall, I think the spread too for this game, like the hypothetical spread, was like directly even. Buckle up. I hope this happens. If it doesn't, it'd be funny to think about. But I think this is a perfect game for both Dabo and for DJ.
Clifton,
Yeah.
I feel like college football fans, and particularly Clemson fans, and even Oregon State fans, if this game doesn't happen, then I feel like all of college football will be cheated out of one of the most compelling storylines of the last decade.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I know I've told y'all this on numerous times. Like, I know DJ's dad personally, and man, I'd be texting him like crazy if this happens. Like, I've been a DJ supporter from the beginning. People hate me for it, and people get on me about it. But you know, I love Kade. I think he's a great quarterback, and I think he is going to be great. He's just had some tough times lately, but he's getting better, and he's going to be great. But I think this would be a great matchup. Like, the teams are, I think we have the better defense, of course. I think that happens. I think we have the better defense than any team we play, period. But on the offensive side of the ball, I'll be honest with you, I think we're about, right there even. And especially from the quarterback position, and from what I have, they have some pretty decent receivers. So yeah, I think it's going to be. I think it would be great. I would love for it to happen.
Well, now that it's been levied out there as a projection, we can all start hoping that it happens. Especially now, I still think that there's probably some off the beaten path for Clemson to the ACC championship game. I don't know how likely that is, but if you're not going to the college football playoff, then I think the next best thing, given the options available, is Cade Klubnik and the Clemson Tigers, and DJU and Oregon State. Let's meet at the 50-yard line, strap the chin straps tight, and let's go at it, and let's see who was right once and for all. Was Cade Klubnik the guy? Should DJU have been left as the starter? It's easy to say what could have happened if he had stayed at Clemson or if he had remained the starter into this year, but he's not. And Cade Klubnik is. And so I think it would be a very compelling matchup to see those two young men go head-to-head. And quite frankly, now that it's been said, hot damn, I hope it happens.
As a Clemson fan, I hope it happens too. I think especially because people love those fun bowl games. They love the high-scoring games. They love the no-love loss. They love the revenge games. And if Clemson come out on top in that game, or, they put up a fight, or maybe Cade Klubnik goes off for a big game, it's going to put them back on the map as a top team, especially if maybe, they string a couple more wins together, they don't lose the rest of the year, and then they beat Oregon State. I think you put Clemson right back at the top. So I think for Dabo Swinney, this is what he wants, a fun bowl game, especially against his former quarterback, to prove. He just wants to prove everybody wrong. And that's what he said with just everything going on in press conferences. He just wants to prove the world wrong. This is where you do it.
And guys, I could almost harken back and liken it to the 2014 Russell Athletic Bowl against Oklahoma. Look, Oklahoma was not a top 10 ranked team. They were a solid football team. Clemson was not ranked at all. Deshaun Watson missed the game with a torn ACL. Cole Stout, who had just been so much maligned, he had been so maligned all year, had been benched multiple times in favor of true freshman and Watson, comes out there and plays the game of his life. Clemson beats Oklahoma 40-6. And as inconsequential as the Russell Athletic Bowl may seem, what it did was it put Clemson at the forefront finally, in the eyes of the national media, it gave them some validation and a sense of belonging, at least to the outside world and the perception of the media at large. And look what we got. The very next year, what happened? Clemson made the college football playoff, finished 14-1, played for the national championship, and guess who they beat to get there? Oklahoma in the Orange Bowl. So, it's inconsequential in the grand scheme as games like that could seem. Don't understate the implications and the ramifications that they could have in the long run that maybe you're just not looking far enough ahead to see.
Bowl game wins are some of the biggest kickstarters. I think, look, take Florida State, for example, with their big win last year. I think Oklahoma, that's who they played, funny enough. So, yeah, big win in a bowl game. You are completely set. You got all the emotions going for next season. So go all in for it. Go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm all about it.
And Clemson fans know we know all about all in. So, hey, let's do it. Let's hope that's what we're talking about in about a month and a half, 2 months from now. We're counting down to Clemson versus Oregon State. We'll see if it can happen. Griffin, I told you, this is something that the bowl selection committee, if the opportunity is there and presents itself, the bowl selection committee might very well just make this happen out of spite.
They'll love it. It's all viewership. That's all college football has been. It's just been a really high spike in viewership. If you're gonna do that, if you have the chance at least to do that again, hell, why not? It's a fun one.
Yeah, Clemson will fill the stadium no matter what. So,
100%.
Especially for something like this, because you'll get the DJ. You'll get the people who love DJ and the people who and then you'll get the people who loved Kade and both on the Clemson side, So, and then you'll get some Oklahoma State fans, So it is Oklahoma State, right? No, Oklahoma. It's Oregon State. My bad. Oregon State. Goodness gracious, the colors are the same.
Cliff, how long have you been up? I mean, how little sleep are you functioning on, buddy?
Yeah, sorry.
Run to the store. Get a Red Bull. They have lots of great new flavors.
Oregon State. That's what I meant, not Oklahoma State. Oregon State. Man.
Well, either way, it would be big time, prime time TV. Well, I'll tell you what else is going to be prime time TV, and that is Clemson at Miami. That is going to be 8 o'clock this Saturday, and we're going to be back on Around the Paul to talk about that game and break everything down tomorrow night, because we have made it through the bye week. It is Clemson game week, and we're less than 4 days away now from the Tigers and the Hurricanes, the throwdown on South Beach, Hard Rock Stadium. And it's going to be good to see Clemson back on the football field. And we're going to talk a lot about that tomorrow. I know that, I go back. One of my great memories is watching Clemson end Al Golden's career at Miami, 58-0 in 2015. Nobody saw it coming. And hopefully Miami's not going to see the shockwave that is the Clemson defense coming on Saturday. So that's a lot to talk about tomorrow. We appreciate everybody tuning in and watching this special episode of Around the Paul. As always, we love dropping in with cool little videos like this. So as we get ready to sign off for tonight, again, a big thank you to Ardens Burger Grill, our fine sponsor that helps make this happen. Go see them at 1280 18 Mile Road in Central South Carolina. Get the double dip wings. Griffin, and I, we can vouch that they are, in fact, amazing. So go see our friends at Ardens Burger Grill. But guys, this was fun, and we'll be right back at it tomorrow night, and we'll talk Clemson versus Miami. I'm looking forward to that.
Me as well.
Yep, me too.
All right, guys. Well, hey, good night, everybody. I'm Garrett Mitchell, Griffin Barfield, Clifton Kennedy, and like we always say, it's a great day to be a Clemson Tiger, and go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.